We're snorting cap rates and shooting up cash flow here at Deal Junkie. Welcome back to Deal Junkies. I'm Gabe Johansson back in the SMI studio with Mike Nuss, Trevor Howard, and Dane McKinney. Woo! We are still celebrating America's 250th birthday. Happy birthday.
So we're going to celebrate NIMBYs. Isn't that like the anti-American creed is NIMBY?
Yeah. No,
What's
really
a NIMBY, Mike?
Not in my backyard.
Yeah.
You can do it. We need it, but don't put it next to my house.
Exactly.
I'm really for it, but just not next to me.
Yeah.
Welcome to the NIMBY crowd.
This is like, so we're going to talk about historic districts. We're going to talk, I mean, this actually comes up a lot with like the homeless when they're trying to build beds and stuff. Mm-hmm. And we come up with FEMA housing. We come up with all this stuff. And it's like, yep, we really need that. And then they go to put it in a neighborhood and there's like 50 people that are really mad because it's right next to them.
Correct. Yeah, you always put it near the people who don't know it's happening and didn't vote for it.
This is like what Thomas Jefferson started with the Louisiana Purchase. The greater good.
The greater good of our neighborhood.
The greater good of our neighborhood.
Is
That was pretty. There were some people that were living in that area that I don't think were super happy about.
The Purchase?
I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had lived there for a couple hundred years already.
That identified as Spaniards or as French?
Probably Native Americans.
Native American.
Well,
Yeah.
I think they can say that about everything about all parts of America, probably. Most.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I don't think that. I mean, you can't.
Not to discount that, there was an influence there by any means.
Tough time. Say that much. So Mike has decided he's not a NIMBY. Can you explain why you're not a NIMBY, Mike?
He is a NIMBY.
Trevor's a NIMBY. I know that much.
I mean, I'm not a NIMBY as long as you don't do shit I don't like next to my backyard.
Oh, so you are a NIMBY.
I think everyone has some NIMBY in them.
Of course.
I think on the spectrum of NIMBYism, I probably have less.
So let me ask you, when they mail you these letters all the time from the city that says like there's a proposal to build this or change this thing and it affects your property because it's within a mile or whatever. Mm-hmm. Do you respond to any of those or go to any of those meetings like the community town hall where everybody's up in arms? You ever show up to any of that?
No, because there's not enough self-vain interest. And the other part is I understand that I just can't affect anything and my opinion doesn't matter. So why waste the time?
Isn't that what everybody thinks, though?
That's the problem with NIMBYism is you're not actually going to stop anything. It's more performative than it is actual value creating. And then the drag that it creates to the actual value you're trying to create is huge.
Mike did this. He built a thing for pedophiles and drug addicts right next to a school.
He built a thing.
Right? And you had to do it. You did
A care facility?
I converted a senior care to a rehab facility, a detox facility that is privately screened for no pedophiles and no major crimes.
That's what I would tell.
Crime?
That's what I would tell the teachers
And those
too.
people told Mike, not in my backyard, and he said it's going.
Which
in
is
your backyard.
operating handsomely, by the way, and the state is giving our tenant lots of money to facilitate this operation and do it well. Surprised you mentioned that, not all the other stuff I do, which is build cottages. So for an example of this, we can use historic neighborhoods. We'll talk about those. We can talk about single family zoning and how single family zoning was created to push forward the American dream and how then that created an affordability crisis. And so now we're removing the single family zoning over 80% of our land, because 80% of it in Portland zone single family, and now adding other types of housing types that increases density.
Which they call middle housing.
Middle housing, yeah. So here's how that happens. So for example, I'm building right now, there's one existing house that had a really big backyard, so 259 feet deep. And then we're building 6 cottages behind that house. And so the neighbors to the west, they've got that same 259-foot deep lot, and they've got a really nice backyard, and they're gardeners, and they have a beautiful ADU, and now they have 6 houses overlooking their backyard because our houses go left to right.
Now, did you have outright use? Was it zoned for this, or did you have
So-
to ask for the zone change?
Yeah, so that's where Middle Housing Code that was established at the state level because we could not pass it at the city level because of NIMBYism. So the state passed it, forcing local jurisdictions to allow it. And so now those allowed outright uses are what we're doing to then develop.
So when you go to build these 6 cottages, none of the neighbors get a letter in the mail saying, "Hey, what do you think of this?"
Correct. Yeah. In certain aspects, you do have to give some type of notice based on the neighborhood you're doing it in, but all they can do is provide feedback, and they can't alter anything.
And what value is that feedback? Does it have? Do they take it into account, or they just put it on record so that they
that's-
know that you're not happy about it?
Yeah, so when you say they, it's the developer, and so you're talking about a bunch of different people. For us, so for example, we did an 8-unit one, and we had to have neighborhood notice, which is then a Zoom meeting with the neighborhood association, and everyone just wanted more parking, but it doesn't pencil with doing parking, and code doesn't allow. You just can't physically make it happen, and so.
And why did the neighbors get to have a feedback on
So
that one?
this is how democracy works. You got to check some fucking boxes, even if those boxes aren't going to change anything, because you have to
It's
make
more of a
people
survey.
feel good. It's more of a survey.
Feedback.
Yeah.
Suggestion card box.
Yeah, and there's different types of land use procedures. There's they call them administrative decisions, which is just they're going to make it internally at the city, and you can have comment periods, and then they're still going to make their decision.
Is there ever a time where they look at the comments and go like, "Oh, that's actually a pretty good idea. Maybe we could add a parking spot, or we could move this building over 3 feet, or something like that"?
Usually, the process happens is you submit an application, they review it, they give their opinion, and then there's a comment period that's coming in, but they've already analyzed it before that. So the comment period to them is not how they analyze code, right? They're analyzing code. These comments can come in, and really what that comment period is for is once they approve it, if you have commented in, you can appeal it in certain aspects. And so now if it gets appealed, now we're going to LUBA, which is Land Use Board of Appeals. And now that the way rich people keep projects from happening is they do all these processes to kick more time, so the developer gives up or can't afford to move forward. Rarely, in many instances, can you actually change a decision.
So you can, if you have enough time, money,
Does it
energy,
cost them
whatever.
money?
Yeah.
It costs them money to send these to you?
Well, you can make your comment with no money, but once you start going to LUBA and you start fighting something, I'm guessing you have to have representation.
Yeah, so here's
pay
our
fees.
care facility is a really good example of this because we're doing it in the Powell Gilhurst neighborhood, which is it's like a blue collar neighborhood. The same thing had happened a few months earlier in the Pearl District, which is one of the richest neighborhoods. And so then the Pearl District has one of the richest attorneys in Portland is on that board. And so then they can mobilize and spend money, and then they can appeal a city of Portland decision to allow a detox facility next to a school in the Pearl District. And I believe because on ours, we had internal department approval on our grandfathered use. And then they fired that planner, stripped that away, and made us go down one of these land use processes, even knowing that the state was passing a law that would keep cities from allowing this to happen. But if you're a city and you are now involved in this large lawsuit because you're getting sued that you allowed this use to happen, by firing this planner, forcing us to go through the land use process, and then having the state tell the city to back off, now you can just go to the powers that be. So again, this is a democracy. Everything is a negotiation. Everything is an interpretation. We have code. It's not black and white. There is gray area, and it's left hand, right hand. And the different parts of the cities with different types of decision processes or different types of decisions have different type of processes for different types of outcomes.
So your care facility, this had nothing to do with historic district. This was just people didn't want recovering drug addicts in their backyard. Like you're turning a school into a care facility.
Yeah. So this was it was allowed outright by code based on these grandfathered elements in the code, which are not black and white. There's some gray area. And so we had an approval based on the gray area that was stripped that said, well, we want you to do this because it's gray, because the state will be the ultimate scapegoat. So there's that aspect of it. We were going to do this episode because of historic districts, though, because of the 4th of July.
Yeah, I got a phone call yesterday that was a little upsetting. I bought a 12-plex in Astoria historic registry. By the way, I don't see any benefit to any owner for being on the historic registry. Do you? Like, is there any benefit to it?
So I've put
other than preserving the character of the neighborhood, if that's what
Yeah.
you call
So
it.
I have experience in this. I bought multiple properties that are on the historic register, and I have put a property on the historic register. And so now there are also special scenarios where the location in Astoria could be one of them. Whereas if you put something on the registry, there's some part of the code which says you essentially have to allow it for people to walk through if they want to walk through it at a certain part of the year, which the city can kind of
like a museum.
Yeah, but it never happened to us.
Well, it's people's house. I mean, I got units there. They're going to walk through tenants' units, are they?
Yeah, but see, this is the thing. This is where you write code, but the actual use of how this is going to happen is different. So whatever, and I can't even remember because it's so insignificant. So the reason we put a property on the register is because it was in Irvington, which is that historic designation is recognized by value. We can talk about my appraisal background in the 2000s and becoming known for a guy who could appraise historic
That
properties.
made it worth more?
No, for us, well, we're in a neighborhood where the price per unit is just the highest in Portland for small plexes because of the value of that neighborhood, which largely is because it's a historic neighborhood with really large, high quality properties close to downtown, right? So everything someone wants, character, quality, site planning, close to downtown, walkability, rich zip code, good schools.
So adding it did what for you?
For us, we got a tax freeze, property tax freeze for 10 years. And so the way that I equated, and we just lost that. So now our property taxes are like $14,000 a year. But for 10 years, they were like $1,200. And when we bought it, they were like $3,000.
Is it still on the historic registry?
Yeah, so it's always on the historic registry, and we have this 10-year period of time where we get to carve out a value, and then you can go in and do another 10-year period of time. So at this point, you can do anything that's historic that qualifies, and mechanicals and seismic stuff doesn't count. You can do a phase 2 where now you're doing seismic upgrades and ADA upgrades, and get another year. So that's a residential level. On the commercial level, you can still get those tax frees, but you get historic tax credits, which you can then sell for cash to help finance your project.
So in my call, I buy this building, historic registry. The guy decides he's going to do a new envelope. So it does, from what I can tell, historic registry doesn't care too much about what you do on the inside of a building. It's more the envelope. And it's typically the street facing sides of your envelope is what they're mostly worried about. So you're talking about really, a lot of times it's siding and windows and doors.
Yep.
And so in this case, he screwed up. He wanted new windows, so he did all new windows. Great. But they said, no, you can't do that. You got to keep the street-facing side, be the old school historic windows. So he kept the old windows. This has been going on for months. So we bought it. We said, no problem. We'll just pay somebody to put the windows back in. Well, now the city is saying, no, the windows you have won't work. And you have to put this very particular kind of window in. And we've been looking for a contractor that'll do it. Nobody wants to do it. They finally find a guy. They're trying to track these windows down like on the East Coast somewhere. Like they're not even windows you can really get. And there's really nobody that wants to put them in. And so they called me yesterday and they're like, we got a problem. Like, we're not just going to pop these windows in. This is going to be like $100,000 bill. I'm like, nope.
No, it's not.
Nope. I'm not spending $100,000 to go track down old windows to put back in this building. So now I'm just going to be in a battle with the city, or I'm going to be in a battle with the seller, or I'm going to try to find some workaround with the city where they'll let me put something else in for less than $100,000.
But they wouldn't even let you reinstall the old windows.
Well, that I don't have all of the information, and I don't think I have the right team on this because we weren't taking it super serious.
Yeah.
It's like whatever, grab the old windows, throw them in. Now it's turned into something, so I'll have to bring in some higher level people to do it.
I'll say this: the number one complaint in the historic board for Irvington is windows. That's what triggers the majority of everything because it's just the easy shit that you can see. And the problem and so this is why you do what you need to do ahead of time to just kind of protect yourself. So, for example, we didn't replace any of our windows. Most of them were rotted. I just paid a guy to rebuild rotten frames. We didn't replace the windows. They look just the same. They're not the same. The other thing is you can dry rot. You don't have to get approval for, right? So part of it is if you're going to change something, you have to get approvals, and that's why people don't like to deal with Irvington, because you have to spend thousands of dollars just to get the drawings to submit.
Historic review.
Yeah. But there's a lot of stuff you can get done inside the code, which is just dry rot and repair. And so, for example, I had a bunch of rotted crown molding on the outside, which is super sexy. So I paid like $1,500 to have a certain drill bit made so they could create this crown molding. And so I didn't have to get approval. I'm using the exact same fucking shit. It's the same thing. Cost me a lot of money to do it. And then so that's what you're doing to protect it at the city level, because it's your neighbors that turn you in, and then the city level, they're going to inspect you. But at the state level, I'm getting these approvals, and I have to show I'm spending this amount of money, and this is why. And so one of the things I showed is this really expensive blade to, like something like $3,000 to do like 13 lineal feet of wood, just something stupid. But at the end, instead of having a duplex that's worth like $700,000, I have a duplex that's worth $1 million.
So there's a benefit to the owner if these historic districts are preserved. The theory is the perceived value is higher because you're part of this historic district, and they're preserving that character. But to an owner who's buying one of these properties, you got to be really careful, because like I bought a flip house back, I tell my story about losing. This is one of the reasons we lost so much money. We went in and we replaced windows. Well, it was on the historic registry. The house next door, also on the historic registry, had replaced their windows with a vinyl window, but it apparently met the historic standard. We put in the same window, and they said, no, you can't do that because it's vinyl. And we're like, but the one next door has the same thing. And they're like, nope, it has to be, you got to go back to wood and lead and whatever.
So again, it's so funny, because I'm actually on Sunday, I have a meeting with a very predominant apartment owner in town who owns land. We're going to talk about partnering. And how I met him was this duplex in Irvington. He had the sixplex next door. We bought from the same people. And so he was renovating the sixplex. We're coming in and doing the duplex. He had this fight over the windows, and it's always windows, and it's all respect to this human being. I really like him. It's ego. It's, well, I want it this way, and I'm going to fuck Irvington, and, I'm getting my attorneys, I'm doing this. And it's just like, yeah, but if you just know the code when you go in and you kind of prepare a plan, and you don't have to get reactive when you're under a microscope versus being proactive before ever getting under that microscope, then this doesn't become an issue.
Oh, and they can fine you. I mean, I think they were charging us like $400 a day until we got the windows swapped. And luckily we kept the old windows, and so we put them back in. But I mean, it cost thousands of dollars just while we got that lined up.
That's
to get
their
the windows
leverage.
put back in.
They have to have a leverage mechanism. Yeah.
You should just have no windows.
That'd be interesting.
Just put a screen there.
Very historic.
Very historic. Yeah.
Very nice.
Good airflow, no mold.
Windows are expensive.
Yeah. But people like historic neighborhoods. They do have, and as a young appraiser, I remember getting this reputation for like Ladd's Addition and Irvington and Laurelhurst and Eastmoreland. And an example of that is, if you're a buyer and you're the top, you can buy any home on the market, and you want to be in a historic neighborhood because it's not a 5,000 square foot lot, it's 7,000 square foot. And you want a 4,000 square foot home, and you want your neighbors to live in 4,000 square foot homes. There's only 4 neighborhoods you can go to in Portland. And so what do? Do you listen to the bank and says the comps have to be within 6 months and within a quarter mile? No, you say this one type of asset sells like 3 times a year, and I'm going to go back 18 months, and I'm going to go 3 miles across town to a similar neighborhood, because that buyer is specifically looking in those neighborhoods. So in that aspect, if you create a historic neighborhood protection level, in the perception is you're protecting the integrity of your neighborhood.
It becomes a specialty asset, really.
Correct.
I mean, it's not comped with all the other assets.
Yeah. And this is where, as someone who tries not to get skewed by bias, is you look at other neighborhoods that fill the gaps between the neighborhoods I just mentioned. So neighborhoods like Richmond and Sunnyside and Sellwood and Colonial Heights and Buckman and Kearns, where it's all historic. It's developed the same, but they don't have these protections. And so now people will go in there, and you'll see these really crazy architects build this frickin' amazing looking modern thing that doesn't fit in at all, and it sells for $1 million more than anything else in the neighborhood. So how do you argue and say by not allowing that these homes are worth more if you do allow it, the value,
The value's going to go up.
Correct. So value is all a perception, and at the end of the day, it's a few people on this board that control the perception of how the process is you're going to go through.
Value is so hard to put
Sick
on.
glasses, dude.
Yeah, I just found these on the
Awesome.
table. To give you an example of appraisers, I had one house.
Give you an example. Here's Mike. He's an example.
Yes, let me tell you how good Mike is at appraisal. He probably did this. I had one house. I got many appraisals on it for a line of credit years ago.
Yeah.
It appraised anywhere from $400,000 to $650,000.
Well, here's an example of that. So
It had nice windows though.
my restaurant deal, which the yield on cost is like 11%. Okay. Who in Portland would not do an 11% yield on cost deal?
If it's a restaurant, no, I don't want it.
Regardless of what it is, to get an 11% yield already.
Are you renting to the
stabilized-
restaurant?
It's yes,
Oh,
it's
okay.
already stabilized deal. It is cash flowing. The current
good.
cash
That's a good
flow.
deal.
Okay. I had a conversation with the appraiser and he said, "Oh, well, all I can do is say it was purchased at market or slightly above market." And I'm like, "You realize what the expected yield on assets in Inner Portland is?" He's like, "Oh yeah, it's like, 6 or 7%." I'm like, "Okay, so my yield on cost is 11.
Yeah.
Do you think that's slightly below market, or do you think that's a fucking kick-ass deal?" It's like, "Oh well, I got people I got to answer." So it's not the appraiser that's actually appraising the property; it's the standards and requirements based on the person who's hiring them to appraise the property and the box that creates of the process.
Well, it's only worth what someone's willing to pay for it. Like, at the end of the day.
I fucking hate that statement.
Why? That's what it's worth.
Given a period of time, given
But
market conditions,
For refinance, much different, which is why refinance is so much cooler.
I love how Trevor loves to dumb down our conversation.
Do you ever prep
Simplify
for an appraisal? Do you ever write a small business plan or put together something to help the appraiser do their job?
Yeah. I do it for the lender, and then I just make sure that the appraiser has it, right? At the end of the day, I want the lender to see what my project is and understand what that is, and then I want the appraiser to see it as well. In certain instances, like the restaurant, I don't need it to appraise very high, so I don't care. I just want to give him the information he needs to move on. And the other part is, we're doing deals that you're not typically getting market rate appraisals for, and appraisers don't know how to do that. So the other restaurant we bought, the difference between the as-is value and the operating value for the appraisal was $80,000. So the as-is value is like 40% income stream from what we have on paper that will be real in 6 months. That costs us $110,000 to get to. And the appraiser appraised it for $80,000 more than just the as-is value.
Yeah, appraisers don't know anything.
Yeah.
Well, they know they're going off of data.
No.
What appraisers do, this is the problem. Appraisers use the contract, the subject
They're
contract
just trying to hit that price.
too much. Exactly.
But and I'll give you an example of that. I sold a project just down the street from where we're sitting right now, and it was about a $6 million deal, and the seller, just out of curiosity, he wanted to get his appraisal updated, I think just to kind of make sure he wasn't selling it for too little. And so he had an old appraisal. He spent $5,000. He had an old appraisal updated. It came in 3 weeks before closing. When the final appraisal came in for the sale, it was $800,000 higher. 3 weeks went by. But it was $800,000 higher because the appraiser appraising the sale was baking in that this sold on the open market. There were different offers. It was negotiated. Somebody smart did their underwriting and they did their due diligence, and we landed on this number. And so they're trying to hit that number. Whereas the person updating their appraisal was just going off trailing data over the last 6 to 12 months on other projects like this. And so, oh yeah, it went up a little bit because this is where the market's at.
And here's in real life, we just had an appraisal come in low, and we were on the market at 700. They wanted they offered 690 something and like 21 grand in credit. So we went up to like 709 and gave them some credit. So our net was like 695. And then the appraisal, the problem is we have credits on top of that, right? So our net 695, the appraisal came in at 695. And to defend the appraiser, like, we're an educated seller. This is an educated buyer. It's been on the market. This is what we've agreed to. Yes, our price is higher, but our net price is this. You can't argue with the appraiser's value. But you look at his appraisal, and it's just a piece of shit appraisal. And I get it. This is a detached condo. So he has these 2 detached condos that are over a year old. They're in different neighborhoods, inferior locations, and he doesn't adjust those at all. But then he uses these comps that are very similar to us. They're like blocks away. Our neighborhood's an amazing neighborhood. And he adjusts each one of those down by $200,000 because they're not condos.
Dude, yeah, we were trying to buy a Lake Shasta house
Yeah.
for like $550 for like a 2,500 square foot home on the lake.
On the lake.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like everything trades for that or more.
Yeah.
That was the lowest comp.
And then
And like one house a year there sells because
Yeah.
like one of these places you can't buy something.
and then he picked for his comps like the trailer park that was a mile away.
Oh, I think it was, he had comps in there 40 miles away. It wasn't even near the lake.
for like 350 grand. He's like, this house is worth 350.
Yeah, he came in $200,000 low, killed the deal.
And so sometimes you do that. You stretch things just because you don't have data and you need to fill a box. I saw an appraisal on a Napa Valley house where it was amazing, dude. It was the sickest house I've ever seen. Like 1,000 acres on the top of a mountain. Crazy architecture.
Yeah, how do you comp it?
Dude, they were going to freaking Seattle and the Oregon coast.
that's good.
And yeah, so that is now just understanding who your segment is.
Like you saying, you go to the other historic neighborhoods instead of going 2 miles down the road to where it's not the same neighborhood.
Right. And
Rather
so
than distance, you're going by the vibe,
Who's
and
gonna buy
character
it?
of the buyer who's going to come to that neighborhood.
to that exact process of what will someone pay for it.
Yeah,
And
when
you can
one-
only get to
yeah.
that if you get into their market segment.
Yeah, we saw the deal. We're like $550. That's cheap. Let's
Yeah.
go pick it up. Let's have a house on the lake. And he's like, nope, nothing ever sells out here. And
He just didn't want us to have fun.
he's trying to kill our fun.
To the
He
defense
did us a favor though, probably.
Yeah, it's much easier to just go
Yeah.
rent a house on the lake than to own one. So thank you to that
if
guy.
you compare those two appraisals, though, the guy that you got your appraisal from, he probably got his normal fee. He didn't get paid anything extra to do a whole bunch more thought, a
Yeah.
whole bunch more work. Whereas the one in Napa Valley, they probably paid him really well
Yeah.
to do his job
Dude,
really,
doing
really
an
well.
appraisal would be so easy. You crank $5,000 out, that'd take me 5 minutes to do.
Now you're going
Oh,
to start a
dude.
bank and an appraisal company.
Appraisals can be easy. I did like 13 in one day.
Yeah.
And there's like 4 different plans, 13 of those 4 different plans in the exact same number
Yeah.
neighborhood. You hit copy and paste. That is science and math. But what we're trying to get into is the world of value and art.
Art. Yeah.
So changing topic, Gabe, Dan told me, I don't know if this is exactly what he told me.
Why are you
don't
wearing
like
sunglasses?
I
I don't
value
like
in art.
any time that Trevor quotes something I said. It's never been
Okay, this is exactly
He likes
what he
to
told me.
he likes to misquote you.
exactly what
It
he
makes
told
the
me.
story better if he does it that way.
He said you were losing purpose and you needed to give more money away.
Dane needs to give money away, or I
You.
do.
It's not what I said, but yeah.
That wasn't the direct quote.
No, not even remotely.
What was the right quote?
We were talking about how Gabe, as he turned 50, and then I think with Paul passing away, had kind of changed, I think, what his 10-year vision was. And had shifted from, well, I don't want to say shifted, but I think it became really clear to you, like, even more so than it already was, like, I have everything I want, and I need to start figuring out even better ways to give back, because you've always been a giver, but I think you just realized that you had more capacity to give. And at some point,
What I
like,
just said.
It's how you distill those 14 paragraphs into 3 words.
I'm losing purpose. No, I'm
Gabe
not
was
losing.
depressed.
I'm not losing purpose. My purpose is evolving. I think what's interesting about getting older and being successful is that, you know, when you're young and you're hungry and you're trying to build something, you've got a fire inside, and a lot of that fire is like, you know, you're doing it for you. Like you want to, like you're trying to get somewhere. And as you get a little bit older, or maybe it's just me, I realize the closer I get to realizing that it's not all about me, and that I might have been given this success and these opportunities in life to help other people, which I've always tried to help other people, but it was never really like I wasn't grinding every day to help other people. I was grinding every day to help myself, and then there was money left over, and so I helped other people. Now I think I'm shifting to where I realize that it's not, it's really not about me at all. And so, helping you guys grow up to be successful and helping the community and doing the other things. I think I've just found I'm looking at more of a, rather than I don't want my legacy to be me. I don't want to be like, oh, there was this guy who bought a bunch of real estate. Like, I think it's more important, like, for me to fall into the background if I can, and to help as many people as I can. And so anyway, I have things that I'm passionate about and so the new fire that I have is less about how many deals we can do, how much money we can make. It's becoming more about like what kind of impact.
I think you got to do more deals to have more impact.
You do, but what's interesting, it's really weird, is like I think the further you can move from the selfish motive to the selfless motive, the more success you find. It comes
with less drag.
Yeah, it's just you're doing it for a bigger purpose, and I don't know that I had. I don't know that I really knew. I think what happened to me was I hit 50. Paul died. I started looking at why am I doing it? It's like, okay, I did this. Why did I do it? And some people would say, oh, it's cool to have cars and watches and all the fun stuff and everything. And it is. It's cool to try. I mean, my life is really cool. But then you go like, okay, well, what's next? Like if you think like you read the story, you read the fairy tale where their dreams came true. And then it says at the end, they lived happily ever after. And I wonder, well, what does that mean? What is happily ever after? It's like, so I just stop and I just keep going through my day now it's like, well, no, you have to create new dreams.
You have to vibrate at a different frequency.
Yeah. And I think what happened for me was it's like, sure, I'm cool with upgrading my crap over time, just like everybody else is, but it's not as exciting. It's like my baseline level of living is so much better than I ever dreamed it would be, or really better than a lot of people get to live. And so it's not super motivating for me to go like, oh, well, I drive a $100,000 car, but I could drive a $500,000 car. It's like, who cares? Yeah. Like at some point, it just starts to feel.
Have you driven a $500,000 car? It might be really cool.
Do you think that
I would not let you drive it?
Do you think that having kids, both to Mike and Gabe, was the first like real taste of unselfish motivation to make money?
I think for me, that kind of worked in opposite.
Yeah, it's more selfish.
Yeah, because I was so young when I started a family that there was sort of kind of a resentment against losing my freedom and my selfishness, like to be able to do what I wanted to do. And so when you become a parent, you suddenly realize that life is no longer just about you. Now you have this other person that you have to care for. And I don't resent having kids, and I don't resent my kids at all. I love them. But being a parent wasn't like, if I ever were to sit down and, write a story of my life, like being a parent was not the highlight. It wasn't like, this is what I always wanted to do. I did it. It was amazing. I loved it. It was the best part of my life. Like for me, it was a part of life to get through. It was like, I got to survive. I got to find a way to keep a roof over these kids' heads. I got to feed them. I got to clothe them. I got to make sure they're taken care of. And it was just really, it was almost kind of like a primal instinct to just get these kids raised.
Yeah, it's the stakes are higher.
That sounds pretty external.
No, because like the reason I mentioned it's selfish is this exact thing, which is the stakes are significantly higher. So as a producer and a provider, where your number one rule is to produce, safety, and provide, and you don't have any kids, the stakes just aren't high enough. You don't have to be that selfish. But from a business standpoint, now you're providing for significantly more. So you have to be more selfish on your day-to-day decision processes for what's behind the decisions you are making for your family to provide and protect for them.
Do you think the selfishness comes from like a fear of failure, or do you think you're perceiving it as selfishness, but it's really not because I don't see that as selfish.
Think of it as an acuteness, right? Like from a profitability standpoint or from a failure standpoint, you just aren't as concerned. You just don't need to be as acute because the downside is significantly less. There's way less at risk. But once there's more at risk and once it's more significant, you have to be more clear. You have to be more acute in that thought process.
You're cute.
You're so cute.
Little cutie over there.
You're a cuteness.
They asked Grant Cardone this question a couple of months ago, and it's they keep playing this short back, but he has, I think, a different take on it than I do. But they ask him, it's like once you have accumulated an extreme amount of wealth, you sort of take on a new responsibility, and a lot of people think that now that you've done that, it's your responsibility to take care of your community and or whatever, pick your charities or whatever it is that you're into. And he's like, no, he's like, that's not my responsibility. He's my responsibility is to take care of my family. Like I take care of my wife, I take care of my kids, and that's where my responsibility stops. I don't see it exactly. I don't think it's a responsibility necessarily, but for me, it's like, where does the innate drive come from? And so I think not losing purpose isn't really the way to say it. But I've always talked about how you have to put a carrot out in front of yourself. And for me, that early on, the carrot is really easy. It's like, oh, well, I want to pay off that credit card, or I want to be able to drive that car or buy that house or go on that trip or whatever. And it's very selfish, sort of like, I'm going to give myself a little toy when I hit the finish line, and then I'm going to go find a bigger toy to go after on the next one. You get to a certain point where the toys aren't really that exciting anymore. And it's
Because
like,
you've met all your own needs.
well,
And
it's
your family's needs.
yeah, this is the happily ever after, right? And so what is happily ever after? And I think you can look at any religion, Christianity or any of the Eastern religions. They talk about enlightenment, and really the baseline to every single one of those is like the lack of self. Like the further you can fade away,
Less of self.
the further you fade away, the closer to the life it is that you're really looking for. Like when you're front and center and you're the only thing you're thinking about, that is not the answer to find happiness, joy, peace, and serenity in life. The happiness and joy comes from having a purpose to serve others and help others and to do something that's bigger. I want to do something that's bigger than me.
Yeah.
And that's the ultimate goal. Is I want something like Paul used to talk about his legacy all the time. And I'm like, what is your legacy? He's like, well, I got all these buildings and I want the company to keep going. I'm like, no, that's not your legacy.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be part of Paul's legacy. This is Paul's legacy, is me talking about the lessons that he taught me. Nobody cares about the units that his heirs inherited when he died. They're just buildings.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. But all the time that was spent and all the wisdom that he instilled into me, that to me is legacy. And I feel like I have a responsibility to pass that on. It's one of the reasons we do this podcast. It's one of the reasons why I mentor so many people and why I'm happy to talk about a lot of different topics, but specifically real estate is one of them, just because I think it's a great wealth building tool. If it's just for you or your family, that's great. But I just think that there's so much more that's possible. I guess that's part of it, is like, you look at what can be done in one deal and you go like, well, if I could do 100 deals, why wouldn't I do that? Because I could do it 100 times again. And then it's like, but why?
Yeah.
Why would I do that?
Yeah.
So what's your reason now? Like, what are you trying to do?
Well, I'm still working on that, but I think that ultimately, like I've met with a couple of different people. I'm part of a couple of nonprofits and stuff like that, and I feel like there's a bigger purpose, and I feel like some of these folks do the work that I wish I could do, but I can't do it. Either I don't have the time to, or I don't have the talent to, and it's not what I was called to do. But now maybe I was put on earth because I'm good at something where I can make a lot of money and I can help these people, because that's one thing they need is money to keep their programs going or their ministries going or whatever.
I think that, like, to really, really simplify it in my mind, because I need things to be super simple for them to be easy to perceive. I used to think that, which is weird because I'm super pro like capitalism and democracy in the United States, but I used to think that like making an exorbitant amount of money was not an inherently bad thing, but it was so often a bad thing in my mind that it was like, what is the purpose of that? And then it was explained that, like, okay, if the end goal is to reduce suffering for as many people as possible. And the first, like, step one is reduce suffering for yourself. Like when you were at your lowest point, which was during, I assume, when you were drinking quite heavily, and using drugs, you were suffering like crazy. I mean, it was suffering. Your life was suffering. You've said it in a bunch of different ways, but
there's a slow motion suicide.
Yeah. I mean, that's suffering, right? And so the goal is like, okay, how can I reduce suffering for myself? Some people struggle to do that for their whole lives, to reduce suffering for themselves. And then once you figure out how to do that, it's like, how do I do that for my family? Like, to your point, like, then my goal shifts and it's like, selfishly, I need to do this for me and I need to do this for the people that I care about the most. And so I'm trying to reduce suffering for those people around me. And then at some point you get to where you're at, where it's like, how do I learn to think about myself so little that I can try to reduce the suffering for people that I don't even know, or like just in the community around me? And like, distilled to the simplest level, some people are extremely good at using resources to reduce other people's suffering. And so that's the example of a nonprofit. Like a really good, like truly altruistic nonprofit is the one that utilizes resources in the best way to reduce suffering for as many people as possible in the maximal amount. And then other people like you and like Mike and like Trevor and hopefully myself are good at accumulating resources. And so if you're a person who's good at accumulating resources, your gift is that you're good at that and you can choose to use it however you want. But you're good at accumulating resources, and then it's your job. And Mike loves like building up communities. Like that's part of why you develop the way that you develop, is because you love the communities around. And whether, I mean, you're making money on it, of course, but it's like part of your intrinsic drive is like building up communities. And then at some point you realize that the purpose of accumulating resources, once you have provided for your family, is to reduce suffering for people way beyond your family. And it's like, okay, so now I just have to figure out who the people are that are good at utilizing resources to reduce other people's suffering, because that's not your thing. Like that's not what you're good at it in some ways, and like you can direct it at the community level, at your tribe's level of like, call it your circle of 100 or 200 people. Like you're good at it at that scale, but some people are driven to like build out businesses to purely for the reason of reducing suffering, and it's just your job to allocate.
And it might be reducing suffering for their employees or for their clients, or it could be any number of people that you're helping. I love the oxygen mask analogy. You're in an airplane; they always tell you if the cabin depressurizes and the oxygen masks come down, the first thing you do is put your oxygen mask on.
Yeah.
And once it's on, then put your kid's mask on.
Yeah.
And then if you put your kid's mask on and the two of you are fine and there's somebody else sitting around you that needs help getting their mask on, then maybe you help them put their mask on.
Yeah.
But you never just go like, I got my oxygen mask. I'm really good at sucking oxygen. I'm just going to sit here and suck all the oxygen while everybody else around me struggles.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I've got my oxygen. I'm going to help my kids. I'm going to help my wife. I'm going to help the people around me.
Yeah.
And then it goes out from there. But I just don't, I think that maybe we think too small when we think about the impact that we can have on the world. And I believe that it can become so self-serving that we think that all we have to do is try to think of, how can I make my life better today? How can I make my life better today? And there comes a point where it's just like, I wake up and I'm like, there's nothing I could do to make my life better. I mean, sure, I can go. We were talking last night at dinner and I was like, yeah, you want to buy my house? And you're like, wait, where are you going? I go, I don't know. Maybe 4,500 square feet isn't enough for two people. We'll go buy a 10,000. It's like, okay, so
what's that gonna do?
What is that? Like, have you ever watched the story? There's a movie, it's called I Am, I think is what it's called. It's a story about a guy. He was a movie director and he really hit it big, and he did like Ace Ventura, and he got into in the 90s, Jim Carrey, when Jim Carrey took off, he kind of put Jim Carrey on the map, and he was making, like, he just went from zero to hero, and he ended up wrecking his mountain bike and getting that disease that football players get, where
CTE,
where they like shoot themselves in the chest so they can study the brain and all that. CTE, is that what you call it?
Yeah.
And so anyway, he had this whole existential moment where he thought about what is life all about and all that stuff. But he tells a story that's pretty interesting, because his I made it moment was he picked up like this $28 million crib on the beach in Malibu or whatever. And he had the movers bring all the stuff in, and like everybody came in, they got it all set up, and then everybody left, and it was just him.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, he walked up to the top of the stairs and he sat down and he looked around him, and he said, like, at that moment, like this overwhelming depression came over him, because he was like,
Yeah.
this is it.
Yeah.
Like, I made
I've
it.
never felt
It's like-
more alone.
It's like, this is what I was aiming for, was to sit at the top of the stairs of this. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So it's just, I think that there's nothing wrong with having nice things and living a nice life and doing all this stuff. I just think that what we long for internally on a spiritual level is much greater than just getting a bigger house and getting a faster car and getting all this stuff. All that stuff is what makes people want to probably get into business or get into real estate, because you're like, oh, like I'm having a hard time paying my bills today, and I would love to drive fast cars and do all this cool stuff. Like that's sort of that's the entry level where you're like, okay, I got to figure out a way to make my life better, and then you get to a certain point and you're like, okay, how much better is it really going to be?
Well, and that's, I mean, the hardest part is the fact that at the start, you have to be so motivated by getting your own oxygen mask on.
It
has to just be for you. And so then
it kept me going
you
12
get
hours
to-
a day. Like
Yeah.
I from the minute I wake up to the minute I go to bed, I grind it out, because I'm trying to hit it. I'm trying to get
And then you get to that point and nobody tells you when it is, and there's no like clear blueprint for like, oh, by the way, now you're supposed to shift. Like now stop thinking about, you didn't know? Like once you hit X,
there's really,
that's when you switch.
I mean, maybe there's a book on this that you can read, but I haven't read it yet, where it's like, okay, what do you do? Like
You
when
would just read the cover anyway.
I just asked ChatGPT what it said.
Summarize this for me. Tell me what this means.
Yeah, but I mean, who tells you when you're going from like, okay, I'm a teenage parent, drug addict, used car salesman. And then one day now I have grandkids and I'm a successful business person who owns a bunch of real estate. Like, how do I adjust to this new life?
Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
Like I didn't grow up. It wasn't like my dad passed off this big empire to me and he showed me how to live the life. It's like, well, I just got here and I don't even really know what to do. I can hang out with other people who've
That's
done
the
it.
beauty of new age wealth. Like new money versus old money is new money gets to have its own new mindset around it. It doesn't have to have the rules and the regulations and the boxes.
Yeah, you just got to figure it out you got to write the book yourself.
And the purpose of mentors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you consider yourself successful?
Yeah, I mean, I would not say I've made it. Like if you had asked Paul 2 weeks before he died, like when was your I made it moment? He said it on our podcast. He's like, I haven't made it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of being a big thinker is like, we're never going to actually get there. Like we're going to keep going. And part of the reason we keep going is because it's fun. I would say the number one success that I have in life is staying sober one day at a time. And I don't talk about my recovery on this podcast very much, but there's a reason why we're called the Junkies, because we are junkies. And I've been in recovery for 22 years now, and there's no greater success that I have ever achieved or will achieve in the future than to live one day at a time without drugs and alcohol. That to me is all the success I need. Just being alive is success. Like I've already made it, even if I never did any of the things that I've done since then, because I was on a path to destruction and I was killing myself slowly and I was about to succeed. So I wasn't going to see my 30th birthday. At least that's what I believed. And so to be alive, like here I am 50 years old, I'm not supposed to be here, guys. Like I cheated death. And so just being in the room is a success. Waking up today was a success. Being able to hang out with guys like you is a success. Being able to do the things that we do, it's all like just a bonus round for me. Like this is just like, wow, this wasn't even I wasn't supposed to ever have any of this or do any of this.
You didn't cheat it. You negotiated it and punched it in the face and turned back.
Well, that's how it looks on the outside looking in, but
It's not how it feels.
It's not actually how it works. Like the way it works is through I had to give up. Like you would think you have to achieve it, and the reality is
Death kicked you off its doorstep.
I had to surrender and say I cannot live life on life's terms. I don't know how to cope with life without mind-altering drugs and alcohol, and I need help. Like I need somebody to show me how to live so I can make it through today and not drink and use drugs. That's basically it. So to wave the white flag at 28 years old and just go like, I tried this, guys, and this life thing doesn't work for me.
Isn't that how you beat death? Is by waving?
Well, I think that's the answer. Is you,
I do.
and that's what I'm talking about is like moving away from self. I think that's part of waving the white flag is you have to surrender to the fact that you
can't win.
You're not the center of the universe.
Yeah.
When you eventually meet my parents, what you'll see about them is there's so much at peace in life because they're just not afraid to die.
Yeah.
And so I think when you wave the flag at death, that's how you conquer it.
It's coming whether you want it to or not.
Yeah.
That was a good episode. I got to get out of here. That was awesome. I got fired up.
All right. Well, happy birthday, America. We're proud to be an American, I guess. I don't know what we're proud about. I was born here. Does that make...
I'm proud.
I don't know.
Absolutely proud.
Yeah.
Couldn't imagine not.
You didn't do anything to be an American. You're just
Doing my
lucky.
best to
You're-
make it better. I
you're-
got extremely lucky
You're
though.
blessed to
Did
be
you
an
know this
American.
world
That's right.
revolves around me? Like it was made about my needing poor
This was
churches
all for
saved and
Mike.
working.
This is all for Mike. All right, guys. Hey, Deal Junkies, if you want to book a call with us, dealjunkie.podcast.com. You can pick up some free tools there so you can work on your next deal. We'd love to hear from you. And please share us with someone you love. And we love you guys. Happy birthday, America.
Happy
See you next
birthday.
time.